So your car sounds like this. You've got a problem and you don't know what the problem is. You've checked the neutral safety switch. You've taken it out of series like we've shown you before. The red and blue or red with green, depending on what your car is set up for the ignition. Tied those two together, still won't start. After the break, I'm going to tell you what could be your real problem.
For 45 years, the Miller family and the dedicated staff at Autocrafters have been here helping you to restore your dream Ford. Thank you for your support. Here's to another 45 years of delivering parts for your Falcon, Fairlane, F-100, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto.
All right, so you have a problem. The car won't start, and you have a tach in the car. You have a factory original tach, like for Torinos or whatever. Ford used the same method for the tachometers from like 1960, whatever they started, all the way up through the mid-70s at the very least. And the reason I know that is this is set up exactly like a tach in a 1965 Mustang, or oddly enough, a 64 Falcon Sprint. Now the problem you run into with a Ford is that they actually wired their tachs in series. What that means is your ignition wire going from the ignition switch out to the coil actually doesn't do that. It goes from the ignition switch through the tachometer, through the neutral safety switch if you have an automatic, and then it goes out to the coil, creating no end of fun if you're trying to work on one of these old Fords. So what you're going to want to do is, if you make sure that the neutral safety switch isn't your issue by zeroing out of the equation, putting the two wires that go from the ignition switch to the coil, those colors can change from year to year, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. Look them up in your service manual, get a service manual or a wiring diagram for the car that you're working on. Only way to do this stuff. Autocrafters has wiring diagrams for most anything that you're going to work on that's a Ford or a Mercury. So make sure you get one of those. Run your test to the neutral safety switch, zero that out so that the neutral safety switch is not engaged, and then try starting it again. If it doesn't start with that, then you probably, if you have a tachometer in the car, may have an issue with the tach. Now, what you can do to test that is you can take and unplug the wire that runs the tach. I'm going to turn this around where you guys can see it. You have two wires coming off the back of the tach, and basically, like I said, your ignition runs in on this wire and then runs back out on the red with green on this particular tach setup. What you can do is you can unplug it from here to do your test, and what you're going to be doing is doing a continuity test. You're going to grab your meter, like the one I've got here. On this particular meter, you'll see this symbol here, which is a symbol for tone. You're going to turn it over to tone, and what you're checking for is continuity. You don't even need to look at it. It'll tell you whether you've got continuity between the two wires. If you take and run your two wires here, one there and one there, and you don't get tone, your tachometer has got a problem inside. All right, so what do you do if this is bad, if your tachometer is not reading correctly? There used to be somebody that you could send this thing to, and he would actually be able to rebuild your tach from what he had in stock. That is no longer the case with the guy I'm talking about. I'm not even going to mention names on this. What you're going to probably end up having to do is to have a conversion done on this to a negative side tach rather than a positive side tach. It's going to read off the negative wire like every other tach on the planet, I think, with the exception of like the Smith's gauges, which is actually a mechanical tachometer. If you're going to have a regular tach, like an auto meter or whatever, it's going to read negative side, not positive side. It is not going to be wired in series with your other gauges. I don't know why Ford did this. I have heard that this was done because it read more accurately. I mean, you generally want to know how fast you're going RPM wise. I'm not sure that, you know, the positive wire, this wiring in series, is going to be any more accurate than the negative side of the coil, but apparently Ford thought it was a big deal to do that, so they wired in series. I think they were the only manufacturer to do that. I may be wrong about it. And if you know somebody out there that's a really good reputable company that can go in and repair a factory original tach like this one, then please put it in the comments below, and I will also put it in the description later after we find out who this company is, and I give them a little bit of vetting to make sure they're a good place to send your parts. If the tach is busted, what you can do to get home or to drive the car until you can fix the tach is simply take and unplug it from the tachometer here and run a jumper wire between these two. You can go down to the parts store and get a trailer lug that is actually a match for this, and you can just take those two wires, stick them together, and you have a way to make the car run without having a tach in play. You'll still have the tach in the dash, you just won't do anything. It'll lay down there on that zero and not move at all. Nobody's going to know if you're at a car show because you're going to have the car shut off. So it's only going to be people riding with you, and you will know. Yeah. So there you go. That's a quick way to fix this problem. Do me a favor, folks. Be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on down the road. By the way, this one works because it went beep. So I can put it back in the Torino. Yes, I know I took the gauges out, but I did it for a good cause. So there. There's a gnat in here.